It is 1 hour for UFC Vegas 58, and we're here to break down this fight card here, right here on the Stokastic Live Before Lock Show. Of course, I am Jason Floyd. As always, I'm joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. We are presented by Prize Picks. Talk about some of those Prize Picks props later on the show. If you listen to the strategy show, Pete threw out Ricky at 80.5 significant strikes on Prize Picks. Hope you took advantage of that because that number is long gone. That's now over 85.5 significant strikes landed. So we'll get right into that one. Of course, always just start lining up those chats in the YouTube chat or over our Discord. Any questions that you have on these fights, of course, super chats will go to the top of the question queue. What's up, Pete? Happy Saturday afternoon, bro. How you doing, man?
What is up? I got called into work last night, so I'm like, all right. And while I was at work working, I was just watching last minute tape, and I'm just watching tape. And I'm like, all right. And I made some groups using the tools over on our website. And I crunched a bunch and led to me playing a decent amount today. So I can't wait to see the results and can't wait to watch these fights with you guys.
And don't worry, me and Pete were texting a little earlier this afternoon. And Pete's like, hey, man, is Nunez versus Calvillo scratched? I'm like, dude, I saw it a couple minutes ago. I'm searching Twitter. There's absolutely nothing on it. You know, I go over to Cynthia Calvillo's IG, going through a billion posts on her story, nothing related to our fight. And then literally right as I go to Nina Nunez's Instagram, she puts out a post talking about how the fight is scratched. You know, look, in terms of GPPs, Pete, this doesn't really affect too much of what I was doing today because the way I looked at this fight was in a cash game. I was looking to get to Nia Nunez. I just, you know, even though she was an underdog that I did like today, you know, looking at it from a fantasy score perspective, I just didn't see that ceiling being very high for her because I felt that she was just going to try to keep the fight on the feet. And it was fight go 15 minutes. Now, the Calvillo side, that was the side I was potentially looking at in terms of GPPs because of the takedown upside that is there. And, you know, Pete told me in a text message that had to redo some lineups after that fight cancellation.
Bro, it's so annoying. I woke up and I'm grinding. I'm doing all these lineups like everybody else out there. And I literally finish my crunch and I submit the lineups and then I go on, check my app because I always want to make sure that I don't have any fighters that are, you know, with a red mark above them or something like that. And I saw that the fight was scrapped. I'm like, God dang it. Like I had a ridiculous amount of Nunez and I didn't, you know, like it wasn't like me expecting her to have a phenomenal performance, but trying to find an underdog or two underdogs that you like just need to get a win. It's a little difficult today. So that's why I was getting to a decent amount of her. I understood the takedown upside of Calvillo, but I did think that Nunez could possibly keep it on the feet and beat her in a kickboxing match. So unfortunately, we don't have that bout and we had to kind of shuffle the cards a little bit. And I think it makes the underdogs this week just a little bit more intriguing, right? You got heavyweight MMA, super low level and volatile. So, I'm dabbling a little bit more with Sherman than I want to. And then some other fighters we'll get to. It's just like, I think that it's very interesting. There's a couple underdogs I don't have much interest in, but I feel like the audience and myself are kind of on the same page where it's just a little tough.
You know, one of the things that, and we can kind of start talking a little bit about roster construction here, and we'll talk roster construction in terms of GPPs here. I mean, you know, first thought is like, okay, there's going to be fights that I want to get to. Main event is one of those fights. To me, when we'll talk about the fights that we want to prioritize here in a moment, but that to me is a fight that you look at to get to. But then also, like, as I'm looking at roster construction, I'm saying, okay, who are the fighters that have takedown ability? You know, I look in the co-main event of Kyle. I think he has a big advantage when it comes to getting the matchup on the ground. Jared Vanderaa, and Pete, this is a big if Jared Vanderaa utilizes grappling, and based on the conversation I had with Jared Vanderaa about a week and a half ago, I did walk away from the conversation thinking that this is a guy that's just going to be trying to shoot for takedowns. I think he's going to want to keep the fight on the feet. So that is a little bit of concern there. Jamie Malarkey. Yes, it's a high price option. That's probably a fight that I think you have to prioritize on one side or the other. Obviously, knockout potential with Michael Johnson, but Jamie Malarkey because of that takedown abilities. Cody Brundage to me is another one in terms of takedowns that we have to look at. And the other one I would really look at, and we've seen in both of his UFC fights, is Ronnie Lawrence. If Ronnie Lawrence is going to go out there and win today, it's likely going to be that he accumulated a ton of takedowns. And what I mean by a ton of takedowns, 5+ takedowns, a bunch of control time over Saeed Yoku. So that's part of the thought of roster construction for me. But then the other part is like, okay, man, who are these underdogs I want to get to? RDA, clear underdog to get to. I don't think there has to be any explanation of why you want to get to RDA. But when I look at these fighters that are in the low 7,000 range, there's not a ton that really sticks out to me. I mean, I hate to say it, 7,600 Chase Sherman. I mean, obviously the upside's high, but man, that fight is boom bust written all over it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I would agree with you that the main event's an easy fight to get to, especially if you're hurting for an underdog. I got to Rafael dos Anjos plenty, and I am picking Rafael Fiziev to win the bout, but I can't completely discredit the value that RDA presents for my lineups. Like, even in a losing effort, he could put up enough points because of his takedown potential if it goes 5 rounds to do enough in a loss. And guess what? This is a massive step up in competition for Rafael Fiziev. Like, he's untested in championship rounds. He's untested with a fighter of Rafael dos Anjos' caliber. So there's plenty of unknowns. So I would agree with you in saying that the main event makes a ton of sense. If I had to look at another fight that I want to get to, as far as like targeting one side or the other, the Michael Johnson and Jamie Malarkey fight makes a ton of sense to me. Without any Nunes, I had to increase some exposure to some underdogs, and I increased my exposure to Michael Johnson. I understand it's 2022. I understand that there are some question marks surrounding him, especially in the takedown defense department and his grappling. But if he does have one skill, it's that he hits you with great fast combinations and has very good power. And we have seen Jamie Malarkey in his losses. He's been knocked out 3 times in his career. So It's a fight that I want to get to. I just feel like there's upside on either side of it. And then outside of that, it's kind of mixing and matching and finding the correct fighters. Like, I'm not big on getting to Garrett Armfield today. He's very cheap. They have fought once as amateurs before. I do think that both fighters are better than they were back then. I still expect the same thing of David Onama winning a decision or stopping him inside the distance. So underdog Garrett Armfield is not going to happen for me. And like where I have gone to the Douglas Silva de Andrade well in the past, I'm not feeling it today, Jason. I'm just not feeling it today against Saeed Nurmagomedov. I hope I'm not wrong. I hope Saeed does not get hit with a shot. I'd rather go to the Sherman, the Courtney Casey, even because it's volatile women's MMA, rather than taking a shot on Douglas Silva de Andrade.
Of course, appreciate everyone tuning in for the Stokastic Live Before a Lock show. And if you're not a Stokastic Plus member, you want to get a little peek what's behind the paywall, it says free premium data tools, our MLB ownership projections, and MMA fighter rankings. Of course, we do appreciate it. If you like what you're hearing here, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. We got a ton of great programming for you each and every day. And of course, hit that notification bell so you know when a show is live here on the channel. Of course, tomorrow we got MLB and NASCAR coverage here for you at stokastic.com. Now, in talking about fights that we need to prioritize today, first off, Pete, you got the main event. No explanation there. And true story here, your boy don't like stacking fights.
You stacked some today. I did too.
I have stacked the main event. And obviously my hope is that this thing goes 25 minutes. It ultimately is a Rafael Fiziev win where he just lands a ton of volume, but RDA, is able to, get some takedowns, score some points in that manner. Other fights to me, when I was looking at, and of course, when you look at our top fire tool, this is a tool that I'm using in kind of helping my process and determining who I want to prioritize. And when you look at that top fire tool over at stokastic.com, when you are a member over at Stokastic, we'll tell you about a great offer we have for new users here momentarily. I'm looking at fights to where it's just the overall fight doesn't have a ton of ownership. And so, like, I look at someone like Vandera and Sherman. I think the ownership should be a little higher than what we're projected, just because of how I see the fight playing out. The Malarkey Johnson one, Michael Johnson, I think, is a great leverage play here today if he is able to get that knocked out. Obviously, could get taken down, and we've seen him lose fights there. Low ownership, don't want to necessarily get there. The Shevchenko and Casey fight, I do favor Shevchenko in that matchup, but hashtag armbar from guard is totally live in that matchup. And to me, the other two that I'm looking at is Gore Brundage and Njeku and Roberson are, to me, fights that I want to prioritize just from an ownership aspect.
It makes sense. I think that we're kind of on the same page, man. It's finding which fights everybody's flocking to and where you can zig and zag throughout people's ownerships. And, I feel like women's MMA, armbar from guard, always viable. And Courtney Casey does have a phenomenal armbar. I don't think that she's the most talented. I don't think Antonina is either. So if I can put her in some of my lineups, I'm okay with it. And I did so. I ended up increasing my exposure to that. The card in general is just, it's a little difficult to navigate through since we just have 11 fights now. So, you have to leave salary on the table if you're expecting to take a solo down. Outside of that, you can already guarantee that Rafael dos Anjos is going to be more heavily owned than he was already. So you can already expect him to have 40 plus ownership, I would have to say.
Speaking of fights that people are really getting to, the first fight of the night is a fight that is getting sizable amount of ownership in terms of, both sides of the equation here. And obviously on the Ronnie Lawrence side, there is a ton to love there, Pete. Now you brought up a great point in the strategy show on Thursday, effective, while those first two rounds against Mana Martinez, Ronnie Lawrence looks absolutely amazing. But Mana Martinez, and I think part of this, and I know that we get accused of being homers for James Krause, but James Krause knew his fighter. He knew exactly what to say to get the most out of his fighter. And Mana Martinez almost comes from behind with those knockdowns to pull out the victory. So, like, to me, if Saeed Yokub can stop the takedowns. Now, also, I think in terms of, like, if you are, you're not a max player, you're getting into these bigger GPs and you're only throwing, whether it's one lineup or a couple of lineups in, even though it's kind of scary to potentially get away from a guy like Ronnie Lawrence, because from a fantasy score perspective, he can score a ton of points for you. But if you want to try to help differentiate yourself from the field, there is a reason to get away from the first fight because of the ownership that we're seeing coming in on both sides of the equation. Yeah.
I mean, I think naturally Ronnie Lawrence is going to be a darling at his salary for a lot of players, especially when they see that box score. And on the flip side, I just feel like Saeed Yokub could prevent some takedowns. He's been tested against Umar Nurmagomedov on the regional scene. Well, not even on the regional scene, PFL. And I do think that Saeed has some very good wrestling himself. And it's the volume and the pace of Ronnie Lawrence, whereas like Saeed Yokub can defend, I would say, most takedowns. I think that he will get taken down in this matchup. It's just, can he keep up the pace, and does he have the cardio to, basically go tit for tat with Ronnie Lawrence? Now, we don't know, and we'll have to see. Saeed Yokub did debut on short notice. So I feel like there's so much more to his game than what he even shown against Trevin Jones. And I thought that he did a fantastic job in that matchup as well. So like Saeed Yokub's one of my most exposed underdogs on the slate, even though he's going up against one of the most popular players on the slate in Ronnie Lawrence.
As we look at the value boys here today, the value fighters today, and we're talking about value over on DraftKings, fighters are underneath 8,000. FanDuel, I'll set the number at $14 and under. So let's look at the DraftKings value. Obviously, RDA sticks out to you 7,200 as a value play. 5 rounds to work with. You have to imagine his corner's thought process as we have to challenge Fiziev in terms of the grappling. When I look at the other 7,000 options, okay, Arnold Petrosian, can he keep the fight on the feet? And how well can he do in the striking exchanges? Obviously, he wants to keep the matchup on the feet. We've talked about Michael Johnson. We've talked about Chase Sherman. Obviously, knockout power there for both of them. Courtney Casey at 7,500. If she can, potentially, if this fight does hit the mat, armbar for guard, truly in the equation. Cody Brundage, to me, Cody's got to wrestle. He can't get into a striking matchup with Treyshawn Gore. If he gets into a striking matchup, I think it's going to end badly for Cody Brundage. But if he wrestles, interested. Garrett Armfield, you briefly mentioned him a minute ago. One of the reasons that I don't really want to look, I think the ceiling is high for David Onama. The problem with Garrett Armfield in this situation is he's moving up in weight to fight here. He is a 35er. He is not a 45er. So I think you're going to see a sizable difference between these two guys in the cage. What has Garrett Armfield been doing training? He trains down South Florida, but mentioned about him. He was back home in Missouri talking about it. A guy, people can't see Tyler, but Tyler talking about that tweet that we mentioned about Thursday as he was on his parents' goat farm. And then you mentioned about Saeed Yoku. I mean, look, can he keep the fight on the ground? Like, to me, a value play, I think, is RDA on DraftKings. And if I was going to go a second one, I might say Chase Sherman, because I just don't know if I can trust the fight IQ of Jared Vanderaa.
Yeah, it's fair. I have a long shot group on Stokastic.fantasycruncher.com, and I also have an underdog pool as well. So I think that my Michael Johnson exposure is pretty high compared to the field, just given how if he wins, he performs well and he hits really hard. And Malarkey's been knocked out 3 times and 3 months ago as well against Jalen Turner. And you guys know I hate going up against a fighter that has been knocked out so recently. So, or hate banking on it. I'm just targeting that fight in general. Saeed Yoku, I'm just curious if it's just going to be such a competitive matchup that they negate each other's strengths in some points, and the Ronnie Lawrence and Saeed Yoku is a little bit underwhelming from a DFS standpoint. Just because maybe there's a ton of strikes, it stays standing and it doesn't necessarily score the best. As far as GPPs, and I have a group of Courtney Casey, Sherman, and Cody Brundage, just because I feel like in a win, if they were to win, I think that they would score decently high.
On the FanDuel side of the equation, now, if we were back in the day when FanDuel awarded points for takedown defenses, Saeed Yoku would be my value play all the way. But of course, we know that's no longer the case over there on FanDuel. So looking at the fighters who are 14-0 on FanDuel, look, I think it's, you look at Michael Johnson, you look at Chase Sherman and RDA. I mean, obviously with Johnson and Sherman, just mentioned about knockout potential there. RDA, he's $10 over on FanDuel. And if this thing goes 20, it's just way too cheap, especially if you're in the mindset that I have heading in this one, thinking it's going 25 minutes. I just can't, I would not avoid RDA to save some salary over there on the FanDuel side of the equation.
Yeah. So for FanDuel, it's pretty simple. RDA is a broken price tag, but because he's a takedown artist, it's not the most scoring friendly over on FanDuel, but even in a 5-round atmosphere, it's just, he's still too cheap. I don't expect he's going to beat Fiziev, but it's just a salary play. As far as FanDuel, guys that I would be circling would be Michael Johnson, sitting there at $9, sticks out like a sore thumb. Excellent striker. If he gets a knockout, he's going to score fantastic over on FanDuel. Chase Sherman, even at $10, I don't hate it, and I don't hate Casey at 12.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Of course, so you hear us talking about that top fighter tool, the ownership projections, everything that we have over at Stokastic.com. If you've never been a member over Stokastic.com, right now is a great time to step in. And of course, if you're just looking for that MMA package we have over there right now you can get your first week for 50% off over at Stokastic.com. Use the code MMALBL, where you can get 50% off your first week of our MMA package. Of course, this is for new users only. Of course, we also have 50% off the entire Stokastic Plus Platinum Pass, so you can check that out over there at Stokastic.com. But if you just want that MMA, and here's where you can take advantage of it. You get it for a week. Well, next Saturday, we got a card that starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time, so you can essentially get 2 cards in 1 week. So great time to take advantage of this. This is for new user only. Get 50% off your first week of Stokastic Plus. And of course, you got to take advantage of that deal. the top fighter tool is how I develop my lines each and every week. So be sure to take advantage of that deal right now. We got it going on over there at Stokastic.com. Sign up for our MMA weekly pass for 50% off. Use that code MMALBL. This is for new users only. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm looking at that top fighter tool is MVP over at FanDuel. Now, look, we all know everyone's going to flock to someone like a Rafael Fiziev, a David Onama. Fine MVP plays. There's some other MVP plays over on FanDuel, Pete, that do stick out to me here. You know, you mentioned about like a very under the radar MVP, potentially Treyshawn Gore, if he is able to stop the takedown attempts of Cody Brunch and make it a striking matchup. How about Ricky Turcos?
That's my guy. Yeah, that's
under
my guy.
under 6% ownership we're projecting as an MVP.
I really like Ricky Turcios today. I truthfully do. On all platforms, I think that he has jiu-jitsu in his back pocket as well. Even though Ayman Zahabi is a talented Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner himself, anything can happen when you get rocked on the feet. We've seen the best jiu-jitsu guys out there tap. So I'm not counting out a submission finish, but I think the volume of Ricky Turcios is fantasy friendly over there on FanDuel.
Yeah, no, that is one that definitely sticks out to me. One other thing that I want to mention about is the DK captain contest before we get into the super chats that have come in. And looking at this captain contest in terms of your high price options there, 14,100 for Saeed Nurmagomedov, 13,500 for Jamie Malarkey. Turcos, you just mentioned about 12,300 as a captain there. You know, there's some interesting plays. In terms of just the non-captain spot, man, RDA at 5,600 does stick out. Now, of course, last week I went with Max Holloway in my captain contest, and that didn't work out too well for me.
Yeah, it was a little one-sided, and the volume wasn't there. I think naturally people are going to be looking at Rafael dos Anjos being so cheap on the captain contest at 5,600, and they'll be looking at Arnold Petrosian at 5,800. My worry with Petrosian is his inability to stop takedowns and his tendency to give up his back as he's trying to get back to his feet. And against a guy who's a little bit control-oriented in Kyle Bahayo, I can see Bahayo backpacking him in route to a submission finish, or just kind of controlling him. And then it's a Petrosian having to come from behind again, similar to the Gregory Rodriguez fight, and it just doesn't happen. I have to say, if I'm looking at the captain contest, if I'm looking and avoiding the main event, because I think Fiziev wins, Casey at 6,400 and Sherman at 6,800 just stick out to me. They stick out to me, whether you're putting them in the captain spot or not. They just look like value pieces. And Ricky Turcios is my guy, 8,200 for captain. I mean, for just plain old fighter on the captain contest. If you put him in the captain spot, he's 12,300. A little under the radar guy that I'm a little bullish on today. I hope he doesn't fall through.
So let's get into the super chats that have already come in here. First up, Sam Pierce, appreciate it, man. He says, best DK captain for cash and GPP and most confident underdog. Best in terms of a captain for cash. Well,
you want to like, I think number for cash, if you're playing cash, you want to ensure a victory.
Yeah.
So like, you don't want your guy to be in a volatile matchup. So like, you wouldn't put like Vandera or Sherman. You want to ensure safety. So I probably would say Rafael Fiziev, just because I think he passes the eye test from a cash standpoint. He has 5 rounds to work with. Or Saeed Nurmagomedov.
I was thinking Nurmagomedov, but it's, I mean, look, it's a huge price tag. You'd have to pay at 14-1. You know, that's where you're going to have to go down in terms of these underdogs. I mean, look at those underdogs, and you just kind of, briefly threw it out there. Like, look, if I was looking for a safe underdog for cash, I think it's got to be RDA, just because of the potential of that fight going 25 minutes. I mean, look, you look at the bottom there, Michael Johnson at 5,200, look, it's knockout or bust to me in terms of Michael Johnson, but if I was going to say my most confident underdog, God, Courtney Casey, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
There's just not a lot down there that I love.
Yeah. It's a tough contest. It really is, because it comes down to the salaries just make it so difficult. And yeah.
Next up from Liker, appreciate, he says, who is the underdog with the biggest knockout upside, not named Michael Johnson? In terms of I think I'd probably go Chase Sherman.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, if Chase is going to win, that's how he's going to win the fight.
Yeah. Liker, thank you, man. And everybody out there that appreciates the show, thank you so much. And if you guys enjoy what we do, you can hit that like button, get us over 150 likes. We're here for you guys until lock time. And Liker, I'd have to agree with Jason in saying that an underdog with KO upside, not named Michael Johnson, would have to be Chase Sherman for me.
And I mean, look, you hate to go there. I mean, look, we all know the run Chase has been on the UFC. Samuel, appreciates your super chat. He goes, being at the UFC Apex, how much of a boost and or leverage do grapplers have? Okay, first off, in terms of it's a smaller cage. It's the 25-footer as opposed to a 30-footer. And it depends on, I've asked various fighters in the UFC about this. There are guys that prefer to fight in the smaller cage. You know who one of them is? You would never think it.
Yeah, you said Jacoby, right?
Yeah, Jacoby likes fighting in the smaller cage, which you would think he would prefer to be in the bigger cage, because of when you think about when people are looking at attacking him, they're thinking about, hey, let's make this a grappling matchup, not a kickboxing matchup. It can work one way or the other. For the most part, it does benefit grapplers just because there's less room for the opponent to run around with.
Yeah, I can tell you personally that I fought in a tiny cage, and I totally don't like it, just because I want to stand up, and I like to use footwork a lot and, avoid takedowns. It's a lot easier to just get bull rushed and pressed against the cage in a smaller cage. So when I fought on Bellator, I felt like I was fighting on a football field. Like, I have so much room to work with. I don't have to worry about it. My footwork actually, it's so much nicer to fighting in a big cage. So I would actually say it's a massive advantage to the grapplers. It truthfully is. It's a massive advantage. Jacoby is one of the few fighters that, for whatever reason, he enjoys being in a smaller cage. That's a rarity. That is a true rarity.
And he mentioned about VIP tickets for Pete's fight.
We got you, Sam. Yeah, definitely.
Don't worry. We'll let everyone know when you get those. My Phil AC has the next super chat. He says, hey, guys, need some advice and not some bull. Malarkey and Brundage plus Malarkey, Brundage, and Nurmagomedov versus Fiziev and Silva de Andrade.
I'm going to go first one.
I would go first one just because of the takedown upside in the first two of those trio with Malarkey and Brundage, because if both of those guys win their fights, to me, it's about them utilizing grappling, racking up points on the ground over taking on Fiziev and Douglas Silva de Andrade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just not a big Andrade backer today. And, sometimes you're going to be low, have low ownership on a fighter, and they come through and they get the victory. And you're like, okay, well, that just screwed up majority of my lineups. And I try not to spread myself too thin. So I felt like if I have too many fighters under that 8,000, I'm not going to be able to catch up to the people that are overweight on those guys. So I'd rather have, close to zero than have 8% of it. It's almost a waste at 8%.
JD, appreciate your super chat. He says, good afternoon, boys. Hope all is well in Stokastic land. Last man in FanDuel single entry, $15 single entry. He has $15 left. He goes, I already have Casey and RDA.
And he has 15 left. Let me see. He has Casey.
He already has Casey and RDA.
I say you go to Michael Johnson at 9, but I don't know what the rest of your lineup is. Obviously, if you have Malarkey, that ain't going to work.
To me, it's Johnson, Brundage would be my top two options.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Brundage obviously has the takedown upside. A little concern there. I mean, there's concerns obviously with Michael Johnson. Can Michael Johnson keep the fight on the feet? If Michael Johnson keeps this thing on the feet, he's got a great chance to go out there and win. There's no question about it. Sam, appreciate your super chat. He goes, looking at taking Ricky as a DK captain. I like going there.
I think it's contrarian, and I really like Ricky. My one worry is how he was knocked out one time in his career, but I feel like we have seen a different type of fighter in Ricky Turcios from the Ultimate Fighter, and even just in his debut of constant volume, aggression, and good pace. And I think the pacing can break fighters, and I know it can. And I'm hoping that Amin Zahabi, being a little lackluster and lethargic, is just going to be a punching bag at times until he makes a big mistake.
Of course, appreciate that. This show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Got to check out all the contests they have over at those daily prop-based contests over there at Prize Picks. Of course, be sure to, when you sign up, use that promo code AWESOMOs. They got an instant first match deposit of up to $100. So put $100 in, they give you $100. So you got to take advantage of that. And mention about Ricky, that significant strikes prop that we mentioned there on Thursday's show is no longer there. That number is now 85.5, Pete.
That's right. That is right. I kind of almost still like him there as long as Zahabi can maintain toughness and not get taken out of there. But if you hopped on an early, you definitely got an advantageous line.
Looking over at the fight time props they have available, the one that sticks out to me the most is Treyshawn Gore at 12.5. I do like the under there. The David Onama was at 10 minutes. It's now down to 8.5. But to me, the Treyshawn Gore 12.5 fight time sticks out to me. Also, the Jamie Malarkey 1.5 takedowns. I like the over in that one, even though some of my GPP lines do have Michael Johnson sitting in them.
Yeah, and I think that there's a misunderstanding of like how to play fantasy sports. Like, we can feel a certain way about fights, and I make a portion of my lineups strictly on my fight breakdowns. Okay. And I make a portion of them that way because I do like to think I have really good reads with some fights. Obviously, we're all going to make mistakes and we're going to be wrong from time to time. But my next portion is using the tools on our website on stokastic.com and seeing where I can get some leverage on the field and how I can make myself a little bit different. And I think that's where, like, if you're playing in a 20 max, you need to find your wheelhouse first of the type of tournaments or type of contests you're entering. And then also, like, your risk tolerance. Like, what are you risking? Are you okay with losing it? If you're not okay with losing it, then I would probably say stick to cash and be a little bit safer. But it's a matter of just finding what works for you and your process. My process is like targeting guys with extreme upside that I feel like are going overlooked. And that's where Ricky Turcios this week. I hope I'm not wrong, but I like Ricky this week. I also like Kyle Bahayo. So if I wasn't getting to Ricky, I was getting to Kyle.
One of the things I will tell you on Prize Picks, how I like to attack those props over there, is I start looking at the fantasy score. And if I think there's a fighter who's got a high probability of winning in the first round, those are the fights I'm trying to target over at Prize Picks. So, like, if you think David Onama, for example, if you think he can get Garrett Armfield out in the first round, you got to remember, you get 100 points for a first round win. His number's 114.5. So let's just say you think he's going to knock down Garrett Armfield. Okay, so at that point, you're already 112 points. So, like, to me, you got to look at that Prize Picks scoring system of how you can attack that. And David Onama, I did take the over. And the play that I have over at Prize Picks. Also, I took the over on Fantasy Score on Saeed Nurmagomedov as well. So those are some of the things I'm looking over Prize Picks. Great way, like if you're like myself, you're in a state where you can't legally gamble, Prize Picks, great place to get some action in on the game. Of course, we appreciate their support here of the Stokastic Live Before Lock show. Yes, take a shot because I screwed up there. It happens to all of us on this channel as we've rebranded here. Of course, you got any questions, be sure to line those up in chat. We'll start getting to more of these super chats. Corey Randall, appreciate it. He goes, just a thought, but What's y'all's thought on RDA and Andrade? Then you pretty much get your pick on DK.
Yeah.
What you think?
When you're, let's call it dumpster diving, but I don't want to disrespect them. It's just the salary range, right? Like they're bottom of the barrel guys, almost. RDA and Andrade are just so cheap. It allows you to get to everybody. Naturally, casual players and a lot of people that are multi-entering are going to do that same exact thing. Pick the 2 cheap guys. It's kind of like a stars and scrubs approach, right? Like we do that for basketball a lot. And it can be used in MMA. These guys just have to come through. I think that RDA's likelihood of coming through is a lot more than Andrade, just because of his salary and how he has 5 rounds to get takedowns to basically put up 50 plus points. I think for Andrade to get that 50 points or 60 points, he has to go out there and definitively win against Said Nurmagomedov. So I did it in a few of my lineups, Corey. I'm okay with it. It's just when you're going high and low, you're kind of missing out on the middle. And a lot of people overlook the middle a lot. And that's where I find leverage. And I find my wheelhouse is targeting the mid-range a little bit.
Michael has got the next super chat. He says, Kennedy and Vandera or Onama and Sherman for a GPP?
That's a very good question. Michael Harmon, thank you for the super chat. And everybody, thank you guys for the super chats. Kennedy and Vandera. I personally really like Kennedy, and I personally really like Onama. So now Michael's giving me the terrible decision to pick between Vandera and Sherman. What the hell do we do with that?
Look, you don't feel good on either side of that heavyweight matchup just because you know what it is. Because like you sit there and say, if you trusted the fight IQ of Jared Vandera, you would say Vandera is going to grapple. He's not going to have a striking matchup. He's got 20 plus pounds on Chase Sherman. But I mean, look, when I spoke to him and I tried to lead him down that path, he just basically says, I love striking. I love striking. And he knows he made a mistake against Alexei Oleinik. He understands it. But like the easiest path to victory today for Vandera is taking the ground. Like in that situation, I would probably go the Kennedy Vandera route. Now, part of my thought process of me is then it gets me a little bit of the chalk ownership on Onama.
Okay. I mean, that's a fair answer. I don't really trust the IQ of Vandera or Sherman, and I expect them to stand and trade. It's a matter of whose durability is going to check out. I think I have to go Onama and Sherman, even though I just like for me, I didn't even care who I got to for Vandera and Sherman. If they came into my lineup, no problem at all. It's a fight that I necessarily didn't prioritize because I worry about the heavyweight gas fest of them just kind of lasting the whole 15 minutes. I know a lot of people aren't expecting that, but I can see it happening. So for my sake, I will go Onama with Sherman.
Next super chat, he says, my filler Arc was talking about Bull Malarkey was a joke, not picking him. I trust your advice unless you guys think he is a good pick. Now, look, the path to him winning this matchup to me is grappling. Now, coming in off a fight, off a knockout, and now you're taking on a guy who that's what he does. So there is some volatility in that matchup of what happens if the hand speed of Michael Johnson, which I mean, look, Michael Johnson's been in this game for a long time. That hand speed has not slowed down, Pete, and he looked rejuvenated in his last fight.
Oh yeah, he did. He looked good, and he has momentum on his side. Whereas Malarkey's looking to get back into the win column, and facing Jalen Turner is not an easy task, and he was able to survive for a lot longer than some people, longer than Brad Riddell could. So I think that Malarkey is extremely talented in all areas. If I was coaching Malarkey, I would say, all right, like we got approach with this fight. First off, I probably wouldn't let my guy take the fight when he just got knocked out 3 months ago. But if we are forced to take the fight, we have to ensure that we stay safe as much as possible. So let's work our way inside. Let's back him up against the cage and let's lean on him and wear on him. And let's start testing that takedown defense. Let's not stand and trade with one of the fastest combination throwers out there because we don't want him to get knocked out, especially if I know my guy got knocked out 3 times in his career. Strategies don't always happen and fighters don't follow game plans. But I do think that Malarkey in 2022 is a solid pick. But Michael Johnson, for his salary and his upside, I got to him as well.
Next up, CS hits us up. He says, out of 555, how many do you fade the main event? How many do you stack? And total number you use for each guy. Coach, appreciate there. So 8 entries in the 555. Yep. I would probably fade the main event in 2 of the 8. I'm
saying in 2 of the 8 CS. It's hard to avoid getting to one of the guys, but I would say fade it in 2 of them. How many do you use for each of them? That's a good one. I would probably go 3 for Fiziev, 2 for RDA. So we're at 7. And in one of them, I would stack.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think
you don't want to stack in GPPs all the time, but we have seen stacking, Yuri Prochazka, Glover Teixeira. If you, for whatever reason, decided to stack that fight, even though almost everybody thought inside 3 rounds it was over, you would have taken everything down. That fight was bananas, and there was so much action and fantasy points to go around.
I mean, look, it's one of these things of, and as I was attacking and making some lineups today, it was like, and especially in the bigger GPPs, it's like when you're going up against so many lineups, it's like, how can I truly get different?
Right.
And that's why I said, looking at now being down to 11 fights, thinking and hoping the main event goes 25 minutes, that stacking that fight is going to work out. And then I think the thought process got to be is, do I want to trust Chase Sherman? Do I want to exactly. Look, your response there is the correct response, Pete. That is the correct response. You shouldn't trust Chase Sherman.
Bro,
if you trust okay. Like, it's like, if you looked at, like, say, like the fighters that are priced around 8,600, like Jared Vanderaa is, who do you trust least around him? Who do you trust more? Jared Vanderaa or Antonina Shevchenko, who's 8,700?
How about neither? How about that answer, Jason? Like, would he set me up for failure? Yeah. All right. So let's say this, right? Say for CS, and I just he didn't ask this question, but let's kind of use it as an example. He has 8 entries into that big tournament. How many of those entries are you willing to risk on Sherman or Vanderaa? Man. Ridiculous, right? Like, if at that point,
all right. God, even though I feel like it's a fight we have to prioritize, it's low level UFC heavyweight action. I know you have this dumb look at me right now, but I just, like, I look at it and say,
how many?
Look, I'd put Sherman in one lineup.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something.
I'd put Vanderaa. Oh God, you're going to kill me when I say this number. 4.
3. Really? Okay. So for me, right, if I had 8 of them, just because of how we lost Nina Nunes, you're hurting for underdog someplace. I probably wouldn't put more than 4 of my 8 entries with either one of those guys. I think any more than that, and you're kind of like, you could be left with a single-digit performance, and so could the other people in your tournaments too. So maybe, like, avoiding this fight is like taking the detour that could lead you to the promised land.
The best case scenario on the Jared Vanderaa side is that he just goes in there and he says, as much as I love striking, I'm just going to take this dude down, and he just racks up points on the ground.
I wish.
But I just don't think we can trust that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I can honestly say I don't think it's going to happen. I made lineups in case it does, but I think it's just going to be 2 heavyweights just enjoying their job, going out there and having a spar. And that's my worry. If it goes 15 minutes and neither are optimal, and you're over here getting a migraine trying to break down which fighter you wanted in your lineups.
Yeah, you're not wrong, bro. I mean, it's something that's tough to trust here. But of course, one thing we want to see is someone go into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. We saw that happen last week as Richie was able to take down one of the big GPPs over there on DraftKings. Of course, so you got to rock that Stokastic avatar on your DFS profile. You can get that at stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins to @StokasticHOF. You'll win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Of course, you can only win that one time per year. Looking at some of the things that have come in over the past couple of days, our guy Eric Lindquist, if you're not checking out his videos over the OddsBreaker channel with Prize Picks, you got to check out him, what he was able to do over there, turning $100 power play into 1,000. Kudos to you there, Eric. Next up, you got Ken taking down second place in an F1 contest. Dan taking down first place over there on FanDuel and an MLB contest. Wayne taking down first place over there on DraftKings as well, an MLB contest. There you see Richie taking down first place, winning over $37,000. Also taking down John taking down some contests over there on DraftKings. So we want to see you guys go into the Awesemo Hall of Fame today. Be sure to check out, of course, Richie used all those tools and data we have over Awesemo over at Stokastic.com. Mention about that deal. If you've never been a Stokastic Plus member and we just want to play MMA DFS, get 50% off your first week. Just use that promo code MMALBL at checkout to take advantage of 50% off your first week of a Stokastic Plus MMA pass over there. Of course, if you got any questions, be sure to line those up in chat. We're under 15 minutes away from lock here. Who is the fighter we're not talking about, Pete?
Who is the fighter we're not talking about? Might be Treyshawn Gore. Like, I think that Treyshawn Gore, I worry about him being so green and him talking so much instead of actually fighting. Like, you saw it even at the weigh-ins yesterday in the face-off. Guy just talks. If he fought half as good as he talks, similar to how he did on The Ultimate Fighter, I think he's going to beat Cody Brundage pretty easily. My worry here is him just getting pressed against the cage, defending takedowns, and that cardio getting tested in rounds 3. I just think that Brundage's durability is extremely in question, and Treyshawn Gore hits really, really, really hard. And I didn't like what Brundage, how he responded in some of those sequences. And I even think that Treyshawn Gore showed that he has a sneaky guillotine against Brian Battle. He might even be able to submit Brundage. He might be able to submit Brundage here as well, kind of hurt him on the feet and capture the neck. It's a fight where I think it's a little bit sneaky.
I'm going to throw two names at you, and I know you're going to hate both these names. Amin Zahabi and Carl Roberson. You talk about who are the fighters we're not talking about? I feel like those are the two fighters. Don't them. Yeah, they're the fighters we're not talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if Amin Zahabi wins, I'll tell you right now, all the listeners, if Amin Zahabi wins today, I'm screwed. So that's just what's going to happen. And if you like Amin Zahabi, by all means, it's just how I play DFS.
Yeah.
Kind of want to go out on my shield. The Carl Roberson one is interesting because we have seen Kennedy and Jake Wu look, he's just odd, right? Like, I think Kennedy's the A side of the fight. As long as it keeps up on the feet, Carl Roberson, despite being a kickboxer, is going to be looking to take him down, and especially with that reach disadvantage. So a submission win for Carl Roberson is not out of the question, but I'm favoring Kennedy in the matchup.
Carl Roberson, by the way, work with James Krause. James Krause will be in his corner. Vince, appreciate your super chat. He goes, I had a takedown with Yuri to share a stack. Last man in on DraftKings, Brundage or Saeed Yokub.
Yeah, that's awesome. Who said that? Vince 1979 Gator. Thank you so much for the support in the super chat, and congrats on the takedown with the Yuri tech stack. My God. So he knows what we're talking about stacking in GPPs. Last man in DraftKings, Brundage or Kakhramonov. I'm going to go with Saeed Yokub Kakhramonov personally, just because I feel like he's talented enough to make Ronnie Lawrence turn into just a striker. And I think that it could be a leverage position as well, because Ronnie Lawrence is always going to have massive ownership.
I would agree with you. I would go that way as well. Sammy says thoughts on DK lineup: Captain Ricky, and then Fiziev, Johnson, Nurmagomedov, Petrosian, and Shevchenko.
I don't like the last two, but you got to do what you got to do in those captain contests.
Yeah. You got to take chances.
Yeah.
It's like where do you want to take chances today? I mean, full disclosure, where I'm taking chances today is on Michael Johnson.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking shots as well. And DD in chat saying Ricky Turcio is going to get KO'd. His style plays right into the hands of Zahabi. I get it because of how Zahabi KO'd Draco Rodriguez, kind of luring him in big power counter. And it could happen. And Turcios has been knocked out in the past. It's not impossible. I just feel like the minute winner is going to be Ricky Turcios. It's just, can he just avoid that big shot? If he avoids the big shot, I think he cruises and beats Amin Zahabi quite handily.
Of course, if you got any questions, line those up. I'll try to go through some of the questions that came in earlier on the chat. We'll try to get some rapid fire in here a little bit here. Like Ari says, he goes, are we better off stacking the main event? Look, if you're like me and the thought process stacking is if it goes 25 minutes and preferably it's a Rafael Fiziev's win, that's but if you think this fight's someone's gonna win by stoppage, then I think the stacking may not work.
Yeah, it shouldn't work. The only reason it worked in the Yuri and Glover fight is because it was like the latest stoppage.
Let's see here.
Oh, nice tie.
Heavyweight matchup should be 8,208,000. Can't disagree. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to trust both those guys, man.
Can I mention this real quick? Mason says, going all fighters without a picture and a flag seems like a good idea. I like that from a hand building perspective. I love that logic.
Okay, Scott mentioned earlier in chat about our straight up fight picks. Full disclosure, I just forgot to do it on the strategy show.
Yeah,
I just forgot to do it.
We had some people just giving us a hard time about it. It's like, man, listen.
Yeah. All right. Main event is straight up not DFS related.
Not DFS related.
Main event, Fiziev for me.
Fiziev, yes.
Kyle Barala will be my pick in the co-main event.
Bahalio, yes.
Nurmagomedov.
Vandera.
This is one I'm struggling with. I'm going to go Malarkey just because of the grappling. But in terms of DFS, I'm looking at Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
But it's a straight up. I will go Ricky against Zahabi.
Ricky.
Give me Shevchenko over Casey.
Shevchenko.
I'll go Gore over Brundage.
Gore.
Onama over Armfield.
Onama.
I will go Njekwu. And then Ronnie Lawrence in the first fight.
Saeed Yokup.
Yeah. I mean, look, like if there's something we forget doing a strategy show, I mean, like all you had to do is ask us, but that was just me just kind of forgetting about it. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Casey at 7,500 is a play. I just don't love that fight for GPPs. I
got it. Probably way too much Casey now that I lost Nunes. Let me see how much Casey I got. I got a lot of Casey. I'm nervous. And one of my crunches, I have 38% Casey. Good Lord.
Yeah. Eric mentions about stacking the first fight of the night. Now, I personally laugh at when I see people do this.
I like this.
But, like, especially when you think about Ronnie's last fight against Mana Martinez, if it plays out like that, you got a good chance there.
Yo, who said that? Eric?
Eric did.
Yeah, Eric, shout out to Eric. What a fantastic question. And some people may laugh at that. I wish I had more time right now. I'd probably make stacks of the first fight just because of the pacing, the pace of Ronnie Lawrence and the skills and of everything of Saeed Yokup. Like I was saying, this could just be action packed and we get both fighters with 80 to 90 points or something like that. Like, I don't mind that from a complete contrarian, just tossing darts out there. I think there's going to be naturally a group of people that stack every single fight and lose. But if you stack that one, I like it a lot more than I normally would.
Yeah.
That's actually a cool idea.
I'm just trying to catch something where I guess apparently losing the first fight has moved back things a little bit here. By the way, the fight that goes to the main card now is the Ricky and Amon fight.
Okay, yeah, because they want to showcase Ricky Turcios. I'm almost willing to bet they're like, okay, we're going to use Zahabi. Never really the prospect that we were hoping he was going to be. And Ricky he's fun, man. He like great volume, good aggression. I think he's just going to show out today.
Yeah. Of course, if you can hit that thumbs up button, man, I really do appreciate that. If we can get over 150 likes here before we get out of here, really do appreciate that. Of course, tomorrow here on Stokastic, we got you covered for MLB and NASCAR coverage to get you ready for tomorrow's DFS action. Let's see here. Try to get some other questions in here. Sean goes, my hot take is Kenny Njoku finishes Carl Roberson inside of 2 rounds and ends up optimal.
I like it.
I saw someone in our Discord chat mention this thought process with when you look at total ownership of a fight, there is so much ownership going in the first fight that maybe the way to get contrarian is look at the second fight of the night of really targeting that fight as opposed to the first fight, since people are getting there.
Yeah, I like the thought process, and everybody's starting to learn how to do it, zig and zag through the ownership and see where, okay, well, that makes sense. If the ownership is on one of the best plays of the slate, you don't want to always be contrarian. But, this is a situation, you got 2 high action guys. I'm just interested to see the fight.
Yeah. Appreciate the new super chat games. And it goes for good vibes. Also just saying Dos Anjos plus Johnson parlay plus 700 seems tasty to me. If you throw in Lawrence, changes it to plus 1,400.
Look at him, monster. You guys are bringing the heat today. Like, that's awesome. I love it. I'm going to be dabbling in that parlay as well. Thank you, Sam Osma.
I'm almost tempted, like, if you really want to get frisky, what if you made that parlay RDA wins via decision?
Yeah.
RDA via decision. Let's see here. It's plus 425.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Yep. It's I love the way that everybody's thinking. They're trying to maximize profit. Jason's over there is like, yeah, I'm gonna write that one down. That's a good one. I can't blame you, buddy.
I mean, look, those are, you got to find those props that stick out to you of, like, hey, if that fighter is going to win, like let's go over to your favorite fight of Chase Sherman and Jared Vanderaa.
Okay.
Chase Sherman inside the distance plus 300.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
Wow. Okay. Sherman via TKO KO is anywhere from plus 320 to plus 330. I'd rather just play that than Chase Sherman plus 170.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
Vanderaa versus by TKO KO plus 140. Vanderaa via submission plus 750.
Jeez. I mean, there's paths to victory there for Vanderaa to do all these things, similar to Sean Strickland against Alex Pereira. And at the end of the day, they just have to execute. So set yourself up for success and just hope for the best.
So we're just about now to hit here lock on DraftKings and FanDuel. Any last thoughts for everyone tuning in? Appreciate everyone tuning in.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody tuning in. It was a great show. I love talking fights with you guys. It was fun, and I hope that we cash well.
Of course, next week is the Long Island show, headlined by Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega. By the way, that is a early 11 a.m. Eastern time lock time over there in terms of that one. Someone mentions, he goes, would you do Michael Johnson RDA inside the distance plus 950?
I probably wouldn't do that. But
yeah, I don't think I would go there.
Yeah. And we got Spencer saying happy birthday, Jason. I don't think it's Jason's birthday, but
it is not my birthday. My birthday is September the 18th.
Happy birthday, Jason.
Yeah, I will be in New Orleans for my birthday as the Bucks play the Saints the next day.
If you guys enjoyed the show, leave a happy birthday in chat and hit that like button for us. Let Jason know that you're thinking of him on a special day. Goodness gracious.
Oh man. I just before we get out of here, I just wanted to kind of maybe look at some ownership here in the big GPP over on DraftKings. RDA 43%. Ronnie Lawrence 42%.
I told you. That
Raphael Fiziev 28%.
Yep. Look at the chat giving you some birthday love. I'd love to see it.
Definitely not my birthday. Arnold Petrosian 25%.
See, that's where I feel like a lot of people are going to get to, and I don't know. He can knock out Bahayo, but I hope not.
Saeed Nurmagomedov on 42%.
Tell me what Ricky Turcos is. That's all I care about.
He is 38%.
Okay.
So you might mention someone mentioned about stacking. Saeed Yokub and Ronnie Lawrence. Saeed Yokub, nearly 30% ownership, with Ronnie Lawrence at 42% ownership.
Jeez. I did it in a couple.
Yeah. Cody Brundage, 21%. Chase Sherman, 20%.
Surprised that's not more. I really,
yeah.
He stinks, but I'm just surprised it's not more.
Oh man, Tyler's gonna clip that. Tyler's gonna clip that.
Whatever.
He's just gonna clip the he stinks part.
Yeah, he clips all the negative stuff. It's all right. But hey, thanks guys for tuning into the show. Good luck today. Let's watch some good fights. I'm off. I don't have to work tonight, so that's kind of cool. And I'm gonna kick back and enjoy the sport that I love. And yeah, we'll be back next week.
Yeah, of course. We'll be here on Thursday for the strategy show. Then next Saturday, we'll be on at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Got to make sure I got to hit that alarm on Friday night. Make sure I'm up and ready to go here for Live Before Lock. But appreciate everyone tuning in. That is going to do it for us. Good luck to everyone today with your lineups, and we will talk to you next week right here on Stokastic.com. Have a good night, everybody.